In this video, I'm going to go through the midterm test we just had, and give the correct answers, at least possible correct answers. There are always other ways you can do things. I haven't started grading them yet. I wanted to get them done myself, and then I'll create a rubric from that, and I'll release the rubric as I get further into grading, and I'll start grading them. Your grades will appear in whatever order that Moodle puts them in. So I hit grade and it starts handing them to me. So you may get yours sooner or later, just depends. Okay. So the first problem I wanted us to create, and again, I'm not typing these live because that makes for very long videos. So if you need further explanation, let me know, but I'm just going to explain what I'm doing here. Okay. So the first one here is to create a class called car. It's problem one. The car should hold the make, like Honda, Chevrolet, whatever, of type string, and a model like the Outback or an F-150 of type string, and then the year of type int. There should be no default, or there should be no argument constructor, which means you have to add a constructor. So it says the constructor should require all three pieces of data, add all required methods, and a method to print out the car instance as follows: -- 2020 Honda Civic -- or -- year, make, model -- if you didn't get the dashes, would not be the end of the world. Okay. And then you write a test program for that. So let's talk about this car class. So, and the other thing here, when it says all required methods, that's the accessors and mutators. Those are always there. I said that in class 100 times, maybe not 100, but you get the idea. They've got to be there. So that's what the assumption was there. Okay. So I've got my instance variables here. In fact, you can label these things if you want. These are the instance variables. Okay. We have, and they're all private. That's what we do. We do private, and then we make the accessors and mutators. So we have a private string make, private string model, private int year. Okay. So here's the constructor. Remember, constructors have no return type, and they have the same name as the name of the class. Okay. So this is a string make, string model, int year. You can make them different things if you want. Since I made them the same, I have to say this make equals make. Again, the this refers to the make up here. The make by itself refers to the make we're sending in as a parameter. Okay. This is just going to initialize the car. Okay. And then for our accessors, we have one for make, one for model, and one for year. The make and model return a string. The year returns an int. Okay. And then all of those just return those variables. Okay. These are inside of the class. They have access to them even though they're private. Okay. Then with the mutators, we're not making anything different here as far as any changes. We're letting them do whatever they want. So we're just going to take in a string called make, and then this make equal make. Same thing for model, and an int for year. Okay. And then on the printout, many ways to do this. I'm just doing a printf with the -- and then the year, a space, and then the make, then a space, and then the model, and then 2 dashes. Okay. So then my midterm Java 1 becomes a test of this. Okay, so I'm starting here, and again, this is a class, so it has no int main, has no main function, main method. The test does. Okay, so I've got it here. I'm declaring a car C is equal to new car, giving it a Honda Civic 2020. Okay, so you have to have string int. I'm not verifying any of that. That's okay. So I want to test the accessors first, and then test the mutators. And then I have to test the print, which will also verify that my mutators worked. Okay. You don't need to add anything else to this. You don't need to add user input, any of that. Okay. So I've created my Honda Civic 2020. I'm then going to print out individually the make using my get make. Then I'm going to use the get model and the get year are all on the car object C that we have. And then I'm putting a new line. Okay. And then down here, I'm going to set the make to Subaru, set the model to Outback, and set the year to 2021. Okay. Then to make sure that really works, I'm going to do my print car on the new thing that we did. Okay. If you run this, you get the initial is that it's a Honda Civic 2020 in 3 separate lines. And then we run our mutators, which don't show up on the screen. But when we do the print, there we get the -- 2021 Subaru Outback -- Okay. So that's that problem. Okay. So problem 2 was the one on Fahrenheit and Celsius. And this one, it caused some confusion. Someone said that the formulas were wrong, and I copied them from another problem in the book, and they're not wrong. It's just confusing what you're sending. So when I was doing this problem, I had an issue with that. The other thing I had an issue with, and I think looking at some of your answers briefly, you found a different solution. It's that when we try to do, and this is a problem we've had before, and I've searched and searched and I haven't found a good solution. If we do this this conversion type basically as an input.nextLine, looking for just an F or a C, and then I test to see if that's equal to an F or a C, it's never going to work. It's never going to be that, okay? And it's because I think there's a new line character being put in automatically. And I'm sure there's a way to strip it out, some of the string tools, but we haven't really covered that yet. So I went ahead and looked up this character at position 0 just to return a character. Now we haven't talked much about characters, but characters are basically single entity mini strings. Okay, they're not strings. They have single quotes instead of double quotes. Okay, but they're one single character, and that's kind of a carryover from C and C++. Okay, but I'm doing it this way to keep the F and C there. If you wanted to do something like enter a 1 for Celsius to Fahrenheit and a 0 for Celsius, Fahrenheit to Celsius, that's okay. That would have been easier to do. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm just creating my scanner. Okay, I'm going to have a double for the temp, and then a string. I'm using the string for this conversion so they know which type. Okay, so I'm then asking the user which conversion type they want. Again, I'm trying to make my message something that makes some sense. So which conversion, I put brackets or parentheses around the Celsius to Fahrenheit or Fahrenheit to Celsius, trying to give the idea that I want an F or a C. That really should be a C or an F, shouldn't it? To make it more consistent. Okay. I'm then getting that string as a next line. Again, that's going to be a string with a new line character, which is going to make it more difficult. So that's why here I'm doing this if this CONV, they've just entered an F or a C. I'm not testing that they're doing it. I'm assuming they're doing it correct. I'm using the character at function at position 0, which is going to be the very first character they entered, which will be, if it's an F, okay, then I'm going to print out for them. Then they want to do the Fahrenheit to Celsius calculation, okay? So they have to enter the temperature in Fahrenheit, okay? And then they're going to get that next double. The doubles work just fine. And then I'm going to print out in my printf that the temp they just entered in Fahrenheit is, and then the result of sending that temp to the Celsius program, okay? And I could have said in Celsius too, but I didn't, okay? And then the else part, which must mean they want to do the other conversion, okay? So then I'm going to ask them to enter the temperature in Celsius and then get that temp and then do the Fahrenheit conversion, okay? So, and again, this gets confusing. The Celsius function takes in a Fahrenheit and returns a Celsius, okay? And the Fahrenheit function takes in a Celsius and returns a Fahrenheit. So if you thought those were backwards and you reversed them, as long as they work, it's okay. Doesn't really matter, okay? And again, you could have done something different up here on this idea, okay? But when you run it, we pick which conversion we want. Let's say we want to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit, okay? And 100 Celsius should be 212 in Fahrenheit. And we got it, okay? Run it the other way around. This time I want to do the Fahrenheit to Celsius. So here at 32 degrees should come back as a 0, okay? And again, this needed a little more pizzazz to it. I should have actually said up here that in Fahrenheit in Celsius. You know, for both of those, it's just nicer. So yeah, that would have made it simpler or made it better, and maybe a header at the top. But this is the basic idea. Okay. Also note that I'm not putting any comment block at the top, and you absolutely should, and you will lose points if you didn't. Okay, so it's important that you have that. Okay. Then the third one caused a lot of heartache, and I apologize for that. It was not my intention. I think the stress made folks not read as carefully as they could have. Okay. So The problem came in for some as they were making this a two-dimensional array. It's not what it says, okay? It says create an application called midterm3.java to record the average high and low temperatures in WISE every Sunday for 5 weeks. You were to store the highs and lows, here's the key, in separate arrays. Okay, there's an array of highs and an array of lows. Okay, and some of you tried to make it two-dimensional. You certainly could, and not that it doesn't make sense to do that, but there's more complexity there, and I wasn't asking that. Okay, so then the program has to go through and ask the user for the high and low for each of those 5 weeks. I think mine actually says days, but same idea. I would not count off for that. Okay, and then it's going to do the averages for those. Okay, so for that one, looks like this. Okay, so again, I'm going to start. I have my scanner because I have to be inputting. And on the scanner, we should be doing the input.close at the end. I probably won't take, maybe I won't take more than a point off if you didn't do that. I may not take any, depends on the mood I'm in. No, I probably won't take off anything for that, but we really should. Okay, so I'm going to create these two arrays, an array called highs, which is a new integer array of 5, another array called lows, same thing, of 5. Okay, and then I'm going to double up here, and I'm saying days, but this is really weeks. But you get the idea. So I'm going to go from int to c equals 0, c is less than 5, c++. Okay. Then I'm going to print out what is the high temperature for the day, should be for the week, or for day c plus 1. You've got to put it in parentheses here, so it'll say 1, not 0. Okay. So this will be day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. All those should say week. Okay. Then I've got my colon space just to make it look nice. I'm inputting the high for that position. Okay, so this is going to be the first time through. C is 0. I'm setting the 0 position of the highs array. Okay, and then I'm going to ask for the low and set the 0 position of the lows array. If you did that in 2 separate loops, that's cool, no problem. Okay, then I'm printing out just a print line at the end. Okay, so then what I did to make sure that I was on track is I went through that same loop again for int c equals 0, c is less than 5, c++, and I printed out that which day, what the high and what the low was. Okay, just so I knew what was going on. Again, that was not asked for in the question. If you didn't do it, perfectly okay. Okay, but then I'm going to calculate the average high and low. Notice that I didn't put my comments at the top like I should have, but I am putting comments along the way just so I can keep myself straight. Okay, so I'm going to initialize this to an int high totals equals 0 and int low totals equal to 0. Okay, I know there are 5 of them. I could have made 5 a final, so a constant variable. Even a final static would have been fine, but I didn't, so it's okay. You didn't need methods here because they didn't ask you to use methods here. Okay, if you do methods, that's okay too, but you didn't have to. So I'm initializing my totals to 0 here for the totals. Then I'm going through the same loop. We've done it 3 times now, okay? And every time the high totals, which is initially 0, is equal to what it was last time around, plus whatever is in that highs for C, okay? And then also the low totals to get us through there. That's the total. If we take then the average high is the high totals divided by 5, and the low is the low totals divided by 5, that's going to give us our answers, okay? So if you run this, a good way to make sure your averages are the same, or working, make it the same every day. And again, these should be weeks. Well, I wouldn't make the high and low the same, but you get the idea. So it's going to ask me correctly, and it does give us the average being 60 and 60. Okay, so a better test would be to have different numbers, but you get the idea. Okay, so that's it. That's the exam. That's the midterm. Okay, again, there's lots of flexibility on what you could do there. It's almost guaranteed that my programs are going to be shorter than yours. The longer you code, the shorter your programs are, and that's okay. I'm not going to take off for that. Okay, again, I grade these by looking for a rubric. Or I'm going to create a rubric where I'm looking for, did they do this? Did they do that? Okay, and I will release that at some point as well. And yeah, then you have multiple ways to do it, but this is how I chose to do those. Okay, if you have questions about these, let me know, and we can talk about it. This week we're doing office hours on Tuesday and Thursday at 7. We'll continue on with that, assuming that enough people can make it, just as a way to help out more. Okay, so that's all I've got for now.